Welcome back to the Monarch Metamorphosis Podcast, episode 12, a very special number for me because my birth date is March 12th. So this is a milestone. And I'm very excited to have Miss Ariana Thacker here today, who is the founder and chief executive officer of MoldCo, which is a digital health company focused on the treatment of mold-related illness and disease. She has an incredible background. She's incredibly smart. She's younger than me. She's done 10 times the amount of work that I've achieved, which is humbling to say the least. She has a background in chemical engineering. She's worked with Fortune 500 companies. Previously, she was active in the deep tech and early stage investing space. She co-founded and was a partner with Conscious VC. And then eventually she decided to start MoldCo, which was deeply personal based on health challenges that she had experienced personally from mold. So it's incredibly exciting to have you here. I think this mold toxicity exposure is starting to become part of the lexicon, especially on social media. First it was Lyme disease, then it was mold exposure. And, the fact that right before we started recording, I mentioned something about empirical reality. What we're experiencing often precedes scientific validation. So mold has been around forever. It's clearly a part of our existence. The question is how has it infiltrated our lives, and is that helping, hurting, which obviously we're going to get into today. But before we dive in, I just have to say this because I'm interested. Where are you from?
I'm from LA originally.
Okay.
Yeah.
This will be good. I'm from Chicago. First of all, we're not sponsored. This apple is from Erewhon. It's an organic Honeycrisp. Look at the size of this. It's bigger than my head, number one. And as I was buying this today, I'm like, first of all, how? But then second of all, at any point in your life, did you think people would be walking around wearing sweatshirts that had their grocery store embroidered on it? I don't know if that's it blows my mind. Because when I was growing up, I wasn't wearing a Jewel-Osco sweatshirt where I bought my groceries or got my prescriptions. So the fact that the enthusiasm around being associated with healthy eating and healthy living, one, allows people to spend as much money as they spend, but also now they're wearing merch from their grocery store, blows my mind. So anyway, you grew up here, so it may not be surprising to you, but it is surprising to me. That being said, let's dive in. So you've done a lot. You've achieved a lot. I think one of the things that I see here with Monarch is, especially when it comes to medicine and health, most people, unless they are vomiting or having secretions from the other side, assume I'm generally pretty healthy. And if you ask what happens if you have these underlying things that are chronic, they're indolent, they're going to impact you over time, you're exposed to something every single day, the question that I pose to people and challenge them with is yes, you're okay, but how good could you actually be? What's your peak potential? Most of our members are affluent. They're making a good amount of money. They have beautiful homes. They live in LA. So for them, they're just why would I even consider, turning this rock over? It's all good. I feel pretty good. And I think that's the interesting part, especially with what you're doing, which is there's probably certain people that have unique things that can't be solved, and traditional medicine kind of runs into walls, and then you're shit, we've used all the tools that we have. Now they're okay, maybe it's mold or maybe it's Lyme or whatever. But, for someone like you who is now championing this space, how did you even get here? What did that journey look like? And how did you approach your experience with mold and mold toxicity?
Yeah, I love so much of what you just said. And I think aspirational health is possible and should always be the goal.
Sure.
For me, it was kind of like the boiling frog, to your point. It's why take action right away if you're not immediately sick, coming out of both ends, to your point. But I was living in my home in Miami, and I was unknowingly exposed to highly acute toxic mold during my time there. And I developed something called chronic inflammatory response syndrome in just 6.5 months of exposure. So it was this more aggressive boiling frog ramp up, where it started off as relatively benign symptoms that I was dismissing as, oh, maybe I'm getting older, maybe it's burnout, maybe it's not enough sleep, maybe I ate some food, et cetera, et cetera.
What were those symptoms specifically?
Yeah, for me, it was, first of all, it presents as a multi-symptom issue. For me, it showed up as brain fog, cognitive issues to the point where I had to reread emails multiple times over. I'm used to a faster processing speed. I was slurring my words. I wasn't able to understand what other people were saying to me. I could register that they were speaking English. I didn't really fully understand what they were saying. I had to ask people to repeat themselves.
Did that concern you when that was happening?
Absolutely.
Like,
yeah.
Like, this isn't normal.
Yeah, I was, running a fund and I need my brain to make investment decisions. So absolutely. It was a threat to my entire livelihood and being. So that's cognitive. And then more pulmonary, more musculoskeletal. I was feeling winded walking upstairs and before I would run stairs as a warm up. So big phase shift in my abilities to exercise. Then I had gastrointestinal issues, so IBS type symptoms. I became more reactive to gluten. So it's just this multi-symptom issue. And then from a more superficial standpoint, I started gaining weight really quickly, somewhere between 25 and 30 pounds of fat. Yeah. I was losing muscle because I wasn't able to work out. I was also losing clumps of my hair. It looked like little furry critters coming out. I used to have very long hair. Now it's quite short. I keep it in a ponytail. So anyway, was successfully able to unwind for a majority of that. But that's what happened in just a 6.5 month time frame of being in the unit.
And when was this?
This was 2022.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So, okay, obviously, like, you were experiencing these symptoms. So how did you even go about, who did you work with? Because, like, obviously you have a company called MoldCo, so we understand you're passionate about it, but, like, who did you go to? Like how did you even get treated, for this? Like, what was that process like?
Yeah. I'll also say most people, this isn't the typical journey at all. Most people are ping pong to several more specialists. It takes years to find this connection. There's also like a whole host of alternative medicine doctors and providers that are approached. But for my journey, I went to my PCP, neurologist, immunologist, allergist, and my labs showed up normal. They were baffled.
Common.
Yeah. So then it was just like, oh, is she being genuine about these symptoms? Is this even real? Is this in your head? Is this just anxiety? So there was that gaslighting happening. And I was persistent. I was like, I know this isn't normal for me. I know what my brain feels like. I'm losing a lot of hair. I'm gaining weight. There's physical signs that something is off.
Sure.
So my inherent distrust of that allowed me to do more research and keep talking to more people. Got connected to a functional health provider who ran even more tests. And then I mentioned, I was like, I think this could be a mold issue. This is after a friend mentioned it. We did home inspections later on. And he was like, you know what? I know the best provider in the space for mold. Got connected to him. He's shoemaker certified. Went through the shoemaker protocol and had tremendous symptoms resolution. So
amazing.
Yeah. And that opened my mind to, okay, I think there's one actual treatments here, even with N of 1. And I started reading more in the literature, reading hundreds of publications, speaking to several experts in the space to really understand how do we approach this.
I think you make an interesting point, which is also like that N of 1 approach, especially from the inception. And I think in medicine specifically, and even like with what we do from like a training standpoint in physical therapy, is like, I understand why like there are guidelines and there are recommendations and you have organizations that set forth like best practices. Like, I totally get it.
Yeah.
But there's 8 billion people on this planet and there's like so many different things and so many different variables. And for you, like, you have these symptoms, you have this level of life stress, like you have things that you're required and like someone else may not have that. So yeah, like the fact that you used yourself to inspire your, decisive action to move into the space. Yeah, I think when I counsel patients too, I'm like, these are the tools that we have. These are the things that they generally work for. But like, we also need to be open-minded because like there are so many other factors, like as we talked about, emotional, energetic,
absolutely,
things that can't be measured tangibly. Obviously, like things that can't be seen. Like you didn't realize you were breathing in mold spores. There's no way you could have known. So from like, how long did it take? Because I think the other thing that most of our listeners and our patients find interesting is like timelines are important.
Yeah.
And, the most common thing we have here is people want to lose weight, right? But I'm like, you didn't gain 20 pounds over the course of a month. Like this has been a compounding process over time. It's going to take time to wind down. So like for you personally, you said 6.5 months of exposure yielded profound systemic symptoms. Like how long did it take you to get back to like baseline once you found the clinician with the shoemaker protocol?
Yeah, that symptom shedding process took time. First, I felt like I got most of my brain function back just 2 weeks after prescription binders. Mm-hmm. So that was a fairly significant change. But for the gastrointestinal issues, it took some months. To lose the weight, it took some months. I'm still working on my abilities to exercise. Like I'm nowhere near where I was pre-exposure, but every day I'm going to the gym. I'm having movement. Initially, I could only just go for like 15, 20-minute walks. But now I'm like lifting weights and, I was doing kettlebell swings this morning and going for a jog. So just every day putting in the effort. I would say I'm at 95% now.
Good.
And I started treatment end of 2022, early 2023. So
yeah, it's been like 2.5 years.
Yeah. And what I hear from Dr. Scott, who's our medical director and one of the world experts, Dr. Shoemaker as well, 90% of the patients that they've treated can expect somewhere between a 70 to 90% symptoms improvement and resolution. So overall, yeah, that's their scoreboard.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're collecting our own scoreboard in MoldCo. But to even have this 95%,
it's pretty good.
It's pretty solid. Yeah. It took effort, but for sure, it was a great outcome.
Yeah. So I'm going to go back into your story because obviously you're living it. What did you find? And I'm saying this just because, like, for instance, I live in a building that was built before in 1964. Like, it's old, it's been renovated. But I told you off camera, like, I've had my bathroom ceiling cave in secondary to water leaking, like, twice since I've been there in 2 years. Like, I have no idea what's happened previously. Like, what surprised you the most? And like, what did you find when you did a deep dive into your living quarters in terms of like, where was the exposure? How bad was it? How common is, especially in places with like older buildings where you're by large bodies of water, there might be a lot of humidity. Like, what do you think most people would find interesting about?
So many. So many points. So many homes have a hidden mold issue, and the signs are actually fairly obvious.
Sure.
So that earthy, musty odor, cracking, peeling paint, history of water damage. I think another thing that's surprising is that new builds don't necessarily guarantee that you have a mold-free home. Minor construction defects, even a loose nail on your roof, can lead to water intrusion, and any sort of water intrusion event can then lead to mold germinating. It takes 24 to 48 hours for mold to start to form. So there's just so many different points of intrusion when you have heavy rainfall. And it's like TBD with the construction defects where even before the build happened, they could have left the building materials outside in the rain. There's so much you just don't know about that. And air spore trap sampling is also defective. We think there's several orders of magnitude more particles in the air than what an air spore trap sample can even pick up on. So there's just a lot that we're learning, and we don't think it's just a mold issue. We think there's also problematic bacteria. We've been looking into actinobacteria, specifically in endotoxins in the home. So there's also this whole microbial world where it's not just, I have a black mold issue or this XYZ mold isn't problematic. It could be so many more microbes and their fragments in the air you're breathing.
And I think that goes to my point of like, we're just starting to focus on mold in general, and like, who knows how many other things that we're breathing in or exposed to. Interestingly, and I'm interested in your opinion here, I have a bunch of jeans, and like I just literally haven't worn them in like years. I basically wear scrubs all the time. And I looked at them the other day, and there's mold on them.
Oh my gosh.
I know. How much trouble am I in? A lot. Should I throw them away?
I would. I'm curious how that happened. Was it just like wet laundry that you?
I think it's just humid.
You think it's just high indoor humidity is a common point source, usually like above 70% over a long period of time.
And I was thinking about it too, because like my dirty clothes hamper is in my closet. And like, I just, I'll work out, I sweat, I put them in kind of like a, biodegradable bag. And then I just toss them in my closet. And then like, I get my laundry done once a week.
Yeah.
I was like, is that moist clothing sitting in that dark environment causing like this manifestation of mold to be present in my closet?
Very possible. I mean, I would get curious today. Like I would move clothes and see if there's anything visible on the walls and pay attention to the smells. I'd probably get a dust test too. So that's like a Swiffer pad. You wipe down surfaces and then you see the different fungal strains that you're exposed to and prevalence. It also comes with a scoring system, low, medium, high. Like what's the impact of those inflammation causing mold species on your health? So you can have that. So those would be like immediate next steps. Yeah.
I was always thinking, I was like, maybe it's just my shoes that are causing this like
smell or something.
Yeah, like it's just like musty. But then I looked at my jeans and I was like, holy shit, there's literally mold on these jeans.
You know what? I've heard that now from a number of patients where that's how they found out they had a mold issue, was like mold on their clothes. And I was like, well, let's just like, what are the laundry practices? Are you drying it? They're like, no, we dry it. So I'm like, okay, worth investigating.
Yeah, totally. Well, I need to get my definitely need to get my blood test done, which I am committing to. So I'll definitely get that done. So one of the things that our patients are now aware of, our members are now aware of is, we are one of the first facilities in California that you guys are partnering with.
Yeah.
To get our population discounts, preferred rates on this testing. And so like, from a mold testing standpoint, like what do you find are the biggest challenges, especially with something that's clearly so impactful, but it's not going to be done in a primary care visit. It's definitely not done with a traditional physical. So like, what have you experienced and anticipate to be like the largest hurdles MoldCo is going to have to overcome in terms of getting people to buy in, participate, and whatnot?
Yeah, here's something I've drafted a policy memo for, and I would love to see this change. So having environmental health screening questions at the annual visit would be huge. Every provider in America educating patients on this very avoidable illness that we think is one of the biggest medical blind spots and at the root cause of a lot of chronic illness.
Sure.
So that's free.
Yeah.
Just to ask questions and just to educate. That's one piece. And I think the other piece would be introducing an ICD-10 code, or is it 11 now, for mold-related illness.
Yeah.
That's currently a gap.
Right.
There's an ICD-10 code for mold exposure on the environmental plane, but nothing on the health plane. So that would open up insurance coverage for patients suffering that can't really afford the current providers, which are tens of thousands of dollars to go through treatment. We're offering this whole package at a 10th to 100th the cost of what patients are typically paying, but it would be the education piece and the affordability piece.
Yeah. Have you approached big payers to say, hey, like, this is the data we have, this is the cost? I mean, really at the end of the day, I think what people don't understand about insurance, and so I'm just going to like say it just so they understand, like your insurance agreement is an annual contract. So really all the insurance company cares about is how can they minimize cost over that 1 year period. And then you have the decision and they have the decision, like, are we going to re-sign up and it's every single year and the costs change and the reimbursement changes. So have you had conversations with these big payers and been like, this is what we want to do, this is the data we have, this is the amount of money that you could potentially save on other things that are, you think you're treating X, and it's not going to get better because you're not actually treating the right thing. So like, why not cover the cost of our lab testing or our protocols? Like, have those conversations
it's coming
been approached?
So we've amassed what we believe to be the world's largest data set for mold-related illness. We have thousands of biospecimens, close to 10,000 patient history forms that look at a 360-degree analysis of these patients, including MRI data, environmental data, epigenetic data, actual genetic data, protein data, past medical history, et cetera. So we have that data set and we're drawing these analogs. We're putting together a memo now for autism spectrum disorder. We're also, we've looked at the neurodegenerative impacts. There's a really notable person in the space, Dr. Dale Bredesen, at the SIRS-X conference, he mentioned 40% of Alzheimer's could be due to mycotoxins. He calls it inhalational Alzheimer's. So we're amassing this data set, and we will be going down that route. I think having this ICD-10 code for mold-related illness is important to do that successfully. But if that's a fail, we can also look at the symptoms, because this is a multi-symptom issue, right? Like the anxiety, fatigue, et cetera. These are all billable codes for what's happening.
So, we're one of the first to work with you guys in California. What sets you guys apart from other groups that are trying to do mold testing? I've had conversations with people that, will come into my house and do, various different sampling, whether it's water, air, vents, all that kind of stuff. Like, obviously the blood work is a huge separator, but like, is there anyone even in your sphere in terms of what you guys are doing?
Not in the way we're approaching it. So there isn't a virtual care platform that's now going nationwide, addressing this issue. There's a long tail of various clinics. Those clinics are quite expensive if you can even get access to that as a patient. Sometimes I've seen a 6 month to 2 year wait list to even get seen. And you're probably only having a touch point once or twice a year with your provider versus an ongoing concierge care portal. On the lab side, we offer biomarker testing. That's an easy lab draw at LabCorp. We also have an HLA haplotype testing. So 1 in 4 Americans have a genetic susceptibility to mold-related illness. We have that data set. It's based on 30 years of research by our founding team. And that's a cheek swab. I don't love needles, so I always love a good cheek swab. And then also we do the environmental dust testing too.
Side note, just from and I think transparency is important. Like, you graciously have offered to allow me to do the lab testing, which is amazing. But literally, like, me getting to a LabCorp with everything we have going on is difficult. Absolutely. Total aside, I will still do it. I promise you that. And now it's on record. Have you looked into companies like Tasso, or where you can get a much easier, to your point, like, it's not a needle stick in the traditional like venipuncture standpoint. It's a patch. Like, how close are we to like eliminating that barrier in terms of gathering the sample? Because like cheek swab, you can send directly to someone's house. The blood one is difficult, but like I'm starting to see Tasso and other entities pop up where it's a lot easier.
Yeah, we've looked at Tasso and YourBio, the other FDA approved, at-home device for blood collection. Our team's a little skeptical around the capillary blood draw capabilities for the markers we're looking at, which are like MMP9, MSH, TGF-beta1, C4a. Like, these are really, I say that only to say that these are markers you probably haven't heard of. Maybe you have, but mainstream population hasn't heard of. So one, there's more R&D needed to see if a capillary blood draw is even possible. And then 2, like, that would be a more expensive research study for us to do, which I think we're game for. So it's something we can explore.
For sure. Like, I only say that because right before the pandemic, I was working with a group trying to do essentially like Elizabeth Holmes. I don't think she was far off in terms of what she was trying to do with a single drop of blood. Like, obviously there was huge flaws in her methodology, but the one thing we found was like, you can do microsampling and you can get good data, like even with a finger prick. The problem is like, it was just the infrastructure was too disjointed. Like, half the labs we wanted to do could be done at one microsampling lab, the other, and like, it doesn't make sense to have a consumer product have to go to like 2 separate places and then try to integrate all that information. But that was in 2019. You're obviously boots on ground in this, like, you understand all the various different technologies. So I was just curious in terms of like, how close are you guys to getting to the point where like you don't necessarily have to show up at a LabCorp or Quest or something to get all this kind of stuff done?
I would love that. Like, I'm so afraid of needles. Like, it's taken a lot for me to do all the blood draws I needed to go through this health journey. Like, that would be an amazing.
Yeah. If I was working with you, I would use the bluntest needle that I have. So in the next, 5 to 10 years, because everything you're doing, first of all, is rigorous, it's evidence-based. Yeah. That takes time. Yeah. Where do you see MoldCo 5 years from now, and then, project 2 decades from now? What have you, because you're a visionary. So what visions have you seen?
So the entity name is the ImmuneCo, and the underlying research around SIRS, chronic inflammatory response syndrome, is really encompassing biotoxin illness as a whole.
Okay.
So that includes mold-related illness. That's a subtype, so there's WDB, water damage building, but there's also post-Lyme syndrome.
Yeah.
There's Pfiesteria, there's Ciguatera, like all these foodborne.
You guys doing long
waterborne.
COVID stuff?
Long COVID is on the table. So
Nice.
the vision is to spin out MoldCo, LongCo, and LymeCo
Nice.
from the company. And I think there's an interesting cultural awakening happening with Lyme. Again, like we've seen Justin Bieber, Justin Timberlake, Bella Hadid coming out speaking about their Lyme issue. So yeah, I'm just excited to bring something to the market when also the timing is right as well.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Final question I ask everybody. Outside of work, which as you and I can attest, sometimes seems like there's nothing outside of that, but we are human beings. I like to say we are souls having a human experience.
Yeah.
For me, building something like Monarch that can exist far after I'm gone, generations, helping people that I meet and that I may never meet, like that's the legacy that I want to build.
Yeah.
So when you do transition from this plane to the next
ether, yeah.
what do you hope to leave behind? What mark would you like to make? It doesn't just have to be work related. It can be anything.
Yeah, a phrase I say in my head and on my whiteboard often is infinite positive global impact. So creating systems for scale. I think after MoldCo, I think like I love 0 to 1. I love building things. Like I think there will be a point where there's a better CEO and leader to run the company after a certain scale. So after that, I want to create systems for change. So it's not just playing chess, which I feel like we're playing chess with MoldCo. Like there's systems in place. It'll be changing the chessboard entirely. So I'm excited about policy, strategy, implementing change at that level.
Yeah.
It'll be really exciting.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, Miss Ariana, it has been an honor to have you. I love what you're doing. Anytime I talk with people like you, I realize how not intelligent I actually am.
You're so smart.
You're playing chess and I'm playing checkers. But ultimately, all of our stories will hopefully continue to weave together because everything's important. And that's part of the reason we say here with Monarch, we do everything, for a reason because, anything that's disjointed, that's not coordinated, that's not well integrated, like it all matters. And so hopefully, at least in my opinion, this partnership with you guys will flourish and people will understand the importance of the technology that you bring to the table. And then hopefully we can help support what you guys find with what we do and vice versa. So thank you for being you and your beautiful mission. And for anyone who's listening, who may be experiencing stuff that just doesn't quite make sense, doesn't fit neatly into a traditional box, like it's time to expand your mind and realize like there's many things, both seen and unseen, that can impact us. And it's time to pay attention, especially to what you're doing. So thank you for everything. Thank you for being here. And thank you guys for listening to episode 12 of the Monarch Metamorphosis Podcast. Have a good day.